Trump to push self-deportation message in proclamation? President Donald Trump on Friday plans to sign a proclamation to encourage migrants who are in the United States illegally to voluntarily depart the country. According to a White House official, the Project Homecoming initiative will encourage migrants to self-deport with the assistance of the federal government and financial support, or face enforcement and penalties, according to the official. Trump, a Republican, took office in January, pledging to deport millions of people, but so far has trailed deportations under his Democratic predecessor, Joe Biden. The Biden administration faced high levels of illegal immigration and quickly returned many caught crossing the border, driving up deportation numbers. The Trump administration has tried to encourage migrants to leave voluntarily by threatening steep fines, trying to strip away legal status, and deporting migrants to notorious prisons in Guantanamo Bay and El Salvador. The Department of Homeland Security said on Monday that it would offer a $1,000 stipend and travel assistance to migrants who elect to voluntarily leave the country. Some advocacy groups criticized the stipend and said migrants should consult with an attorney. A draft of Trump's proclamation said he would direct a full-scale, aggressive deportation surge, including with an additional 20,000 officers for immigrants in the country illegally who refuse to depart. It was not clear which officers the Trump administration would use for the supplemental force. White House to take choice of Pentagon Chief of Staff out of Hegseth's hands. Exclusive, the intervention to marginalize Ricky Beria is aimed at insulating the Pentagon from any more missteps. Exasperated by the turmoil that has dogged Pete Hegseth's office in recent weeks, the White House will block the U.S. Defense Secretary's choice of Chief of Staff and select a candidate of its own. According to two people familiar with the matter, Hegseth had suggested giving the Chief of Staff position to Marine. Call Ricky Beria after the first person in the role, Joe Casper, left last month in the wake of a contentious leak investigation that brought the ouster of 3 other senior aides. But the White House has made clear to Hegseth that Beria will not be elevated to become his most senior aide at the Pentagon. The people said, casting Beria as a liability on account of his limited experience as a junior military assistant and his recurring role in internal office drama. Ricky will not be getting the chief position. One of the people directly familiar with deliberations said, he doesn't have adequate experience, lacks the political chops, and is widely disliked by almost everyone in the White House who has been exposed to him. The White House has always selected political appointees at agencies through the Presidential Personnel Office. But the move to block Hegseth's choice at this juncture is unusual and reflects Donald Trump's intent to keep Hegseth by trying to insulate him from any more missteps. The intervention comes at a time when Hegseth's ability to run the Pentagon has come under scrutiny. It also runs into the belief inside Trump's orbit that even the president might struggle to justify Hegseth's survival if the secretary does not have a scandal-free next few months. The secretary is not expected to have to fire Beria after he agreed to a compromise to accept the White House's choice for a new chief of staff in exchange for keeping Beria as a senior advisor. The people said the White House and Pentagon did not respond to a request for comment. The internal staffing situation at the Pentagon has outsized consequences because Hegseth's front office is involved in policy, deliberations in sensitive decision-making at the Defense Department, which has a budget of more than $800 billion and oversees more than 2 million troops. Hegseth's office is currently operating at a fraction of the size it normally does. With roughly 5 senior advisors, there's so much that's not happening because no one is managing the front office. An official with knowledge of the situation said the possibility of Beria becoming chief of staff spooked the White House for multiple reasons. For one, the White House Presidential Personnel Office previously declined Hegseth's request to make him a political appointee. But Beria has been operating in such a capacity anyway, two officials said. Beria appears to be considered by the career civilian employees in the Deputy Defense Secretary's office as the acting chief, not least because he recently moved into the Chief of Staff's office and has taken steps to redecorate by bringing in new furniture. The officials said Beria also recently failed to pass a polygraph test. That was administered as part of the leak investigation. The polygraph came back as inconclusive, the officials said, a result that would ordinarily require him to retake the test before he could be cleared. In an additional twist, Beria was identified as having sent some of the messages in at least one Signal group chat about sensitive and imminent U.S. missile strikes against the Houthis in Yemen, the officials said. The Wall Street Journal earlier reported on Beria's access to Hegseth's personal phone. Beria, a former MV-22 pilot who served in Iraq and Afghanistan, started his ascent at the Pentagon as a junior military assistant, JMA, under Joe Biden's defense Secretary Lloyd Austin. In the prestigious but unglamorous role, a JM is something of a personal aide but with access to high-level operations. When Hegseth arrived, Beria continued his role as the JMA and quickly became close with Hegseth and his wife, Jennifer, traveling with the secretary, and spending time at the secretary's residence at Fort McNair.